The history of cities give continuously information on their previous past which have been experienced and lived throughout the time, from ancient till nowadays. Not too rarely, during scholar studies, it can be found that different places might have common points where they meet. This situation is relevant for the cities of Amasya in Turkey and Berat in Albania. Both cities were significant places in the Ottoman Empire history. Berat, which during the 18th century was one of the most important Albanian cities of the Ottoman Empire, and Amasya, the land of Ottoman princes, have lived under the rules of the same realm for centuries. Due to this joint context, the cities share common similarities in their urban and architectural values. In 2017, Amasya and Berat have established a sister city relationship agreement signed by the mayors of the two respective municipalities. The agreement predicts various areas of cooperation, including economy, culture, tourism, education, social services, experience sharing, and people-to-people exchange. However, up to now, there are no studies engaged to analyze their respective urban and architectural elements. Therefore, for enhancing the continuity in mutual urban outlines, it is crucial to understand their similarities and differences of urban and architectural patterns. Throughout history, Turks have lived in a vast geography from Central Asia to the Balkan, from North Africa to the Black Sea. The integration of the newly territories in Balkan, Anatolia, Middle East, and North Africa in the Ottoman administrative system presented the Ottomans with enormous challenges. However, as Akun says, they arrived in this area with a well-articulated vision of state and were equipped with the necessary tools to achieve such a reality. Scholar Demir Kaya said that on the long time period that the empire prevailed, each Ottoman cities developed a format related with their unique dynamics and tradition understanding. Thus, in different geographical areas being under the same administrative system, special organization of the cities share essential principles adapted with the surrounding geographical, socio-cultural, and economical context. In land outside the Turkey, the house built by the Turks and the Turkish inhabitants are not called the Turkish house, but local houses with Ottoman influences. The urban development of cities during Ottoman era has been studied by several scholars like Goodwin, Cerasi, Çukurmen, Günay, etc. In particular, Turkish dwellings are studied by Küçükürmen, Eldem, Günay, Akin. On the other hand, an analytical collection particularly for Balkan region is found by Akin in the book entitled Balkanlarda Osmanlı Dönemi Konutları, including the country of Albania. Günay states that Balkan countries, including Albania, did not have a very developed house tradition like the Turkish house in Anatolia. Sedat Haki Eldem divides the Turkish Balkan houses style into 8 categories due to their position location. Albania fall under the region of Karadağ, Arnavutluk ve Epir. One outstanding feature in Albania are the Berat houses, which due to topography conditions, the houses follow the steppe terrain. Local scholars like Meksi, Reza, Pashako, Samimi, and others have covered the case of Berat city housing during 16th to 19th century. Similarly, Amasya is studied by Goodwin, Gabriel, Küçükürmen, Çağdaş, Bejofer, and Yalcin, and many more scholars. Analytical observation on their work will assist in the comparison between the cities chosen. The cities chosen for comparison are located in 2 different continents, Amasya in Asia and Berat in Southeast Europe. Located in the Middle Black Sea region, Amasya is surrounded by Tokat in the east, Yozgat in the south, Çorum in the west, and Samsun in the north. The city's surface is 6,690 km. The city is surrounded by the Kırklar and Sakarat mountains. It is located on a valley 400 meters above the sea level, created by the Yeşilırmak River that passes through Amasya. While Berat is a city in southern Albania, it is surrounded by Fier in the west, Gramsh in the east, Tepelen and Permet in the south, Skrapar in the southeast, and Elbasan in the north. The city's surface is 379.98 km square. The city is placed on the banks of the river Osum. The landscape surrounding the town is bent from the mountains Shpirago and Tomori. Amasya and Berat have been continuously inhabited from ancient times down to the present day. Amasya is one of the oldest settlements of Anatolia. The history of the city of Amasya goes back 5,500 years before Christ based on data from archaeological excavation and scientific research. The name Amasya is seen for the first time on the city coins of Hellenistic period, later in the coins of Mithridates, in the coins of 65 before Christ, and lastly in the coins of Roman period, and maintained this name till the present times without change. Throughout the years, Amasya has been home to a number of civilizations that have settled before the Turks, such as Hittites, the Phrygians, the Cimmerian Suths, the Med Persians, and Persian Pontus. It became a Roman territory between 29 before Christ to 395 after Christ. Later was ruled for 700 years by the Byzantines, serving as an important military headquarters. Referring to historical records, in 1243 the region was conquered by Mongol dynasty, and in 1386 it was taken by Sultan Bayezid and incorporated into the Ottoman Empire. Referring to the datas from Berat municipality, the name Berat is probably derived from the Old Slavonic Beligrad, meaning white city. It is believed to have been called Antipatria in ancient times, while during the early Byzantine Empire, the name of the town was Pulcheropolis. In the Ottoman Empire, the city was known as Arnavut Belgradi, for which Pashako says that it is mostly used to indicate a degree, but then can also have the sense of privilege. Its life began as an Illyrian settlement in 16th century before Christ. Later, in the 3rd century before Christ, it was taken under the Roman control. The city walls were built during medieval period. From 19th to 11th centuries, Berat was invaded and conquered twice by the Bulgarians, but would be taken back by the Roman Byzantine Empire and controlled by the Muzaka family. The Turks took over occupation of Berat in 1417. In the 17th century until the year 1912, Berat thrived under Ottoman control. Many mosques and living quarters were built, expanding the city limits down towards the river and creating a downtown area. During the Ottoman invasion, Berat remains one of the largest cities in Albania. As stated from Vienna Institute Demography, demography is a study of populations, but populations consist of humans which are embedded in their social context. Therefore, there is a clear relationship between city demographic and social behavior. Starting with Amasya, according to Bochefer and Yalcin, political stability under the Ottomans brought prosperity to the city. Ottoman sultans were generous patrons who contributed to Amasya's richness by establishing mosques, madrasas, and libraries. Architectural and urban development in the Ottoman period was consequently significant. The city was an important religious, educational, and cultural center in the 16th century, and it profited from being on the main road between Istanbul and Tabriz. Amasya in 16th century had 60 districts. The districts were small, counting 33 nefer per district. The district population was divided due to religion belief. Thus, the Muslim inhabitants was 77% of total population, 17% were Jewish, and the rest Christians, Armeni, and Rome. In the 17th century, as studied by Jennings, Amasya might have lost somehow its commercial importance compared to the neighbor cities. In terms of economical life, Amasya was an agricultural land and the local economy depended on orchards and vineyards. Good quality cotton cloth and carpets were produced. Referring again to Professor Jennings' statistics, the districts involved with trades and commerce were exclusively Muslims in population. Evliya Çelebi, after the visit in the city, noted that Amasya had 5,000 houses and 1,060 shops. The social level of the inhabitants had a hierarchy. For example, while analyzing the urban development of Amasya, it is found out that the wealthy landowners live just next by the river, and behind them will be placed the middle-class landowners and later the low-class landowners. The palace was higher up with servant quarters built below the Baltic tomb. On the other hand, Berat development was smaller in scale but again very significant for Albanian region. From the records, it is understood that Berat until the 15th century was enclosed around the walls of the castle. With the establishment of Ottoman rule, the city has expanded beyond the sea walls in the Magalem and Goris districts. In the book of Meksi, Reza and Bache, Berat, History and Architecture, we learn that there was a rapid growth in the city, as many villagers, mostly craftsmen, migrated to the center of the city. In terms of socio-economical life, Berat was the most developed city in Albania, which had over 1,000 homes and more craftsmen and merchants than other cities. 654 handicrafts, while 444 Christians were farmers. From the data can be assumed that the Muslim community marks 65% of the city, and similarly with Amasya, the Muslim population were the one involved with trade and commerce. In the middle of 17th century, Berat had 30 neighborhoods, 10 of them belonged to Christian population and 20 to Muslims. This shows that the neighborhoods were divided based on their religious affiliation. The agriculture has been always present in the development of the city. Evliya Çelebi writes that the Osum rivers watered thousands of rice fields and thousands of watermelons surrounded by fences. Of course, his writings can be a bit subjective, but we can take into consideration. The mention of rare goods in Berat market and the arrival of Venetian merchants give evidences of the economic power of the city. In the middle of 18th century, Berat had become the centerpiece of a great interregional system. It can be said that the demographic growth, the significant increase in the crafts and residential housing, prosperity of social life characterized Berat of the 18th century. As reference from Demirkaya, the rules of the typical Ottoman urban patterns described by Gerasi are wooden houses with broken roofs, a dome mosque, a special order of the city roads, a marked separation of the economical and residential roles, and expansion of the city composition to nature are the basic factors forming the city structure. The Ottomans did not destroy nothing found from previous empires. Moreover, it continued the city development by incorporating its principle. In order to understand how these rules were applied in the chosen region, the focus will be in Amasya and Berat city layout, furthering down to their respective typical house design. Cities are developed each day in parallel with their demography, and thus started to expand with the development of new quarters related with the new formations conducted by the foundations with increasing population and construction activities. In Amasya, topography and social responsibility conditioned urban form. The urban riverscape is architecturally and symbolically the heart of the city, the linear center for layers of buildings and gardens parallel to the river. The Ottomans used traces of ancient neighborhood and built their houses upon them. Therefore, the city wall did not serve as a protection but a masonry wall for their foundation. The limited amount of space for building on the riverfront gave rise to attached houses with a particular plan organization framed by parallel walls. The rooms closest to the street are shops and guest quarters for visitors. According to Bechofer and Yalcin, the positioning of the house plan in relation to the river, to the street, to the south sun, and to degrees of privacy within the house reinforces the layering of the overall urban plan. The river divides the urban development in two parts. In north side are placed straight the Ottoman houses. The palace was higher up with servants' quarters built on the very steep land below the Pontic tomb. Both sides of the river are connected with a bridge. From south side, a promenade takes place as well as Bayezid Mosque. Although many houses are dilapidated, the neighborhood is exceptional in conveying the scale, character, and amenity of an Ottoman city. The Ottoman architecture in Amasya includes those of any Anatolian cities, like mosques from Selçuklu period till early 19th century, schools, bridges, bathhouses, covered markets, clock towers, health center, and housing, which are still available today. Referring to several scholars who studied the Berat city progress, it is agreed that Berat prospered when the Ottomans gained control of the city, and much of the modern-day and old sectors of Berat can be attributed to the Ottoman Empire. Due to migration of the rural population to the city center, the development of new districts were needed. The city started to grow and expand in the hills on both sides of the river Osum until the 17th century, creating three residential areas: Kala from earlier times, Mangalem and Gorica during 15th to 19th century. These neighborhoods arise on sloping ground and rocky. The lack of shallow soils had led to different typology according to social classes. During Ottoman period, the new religious structure was introduced, such as mosque. The mosque was the central point, and all other amenities will be built around it. Michael Kiel, who visited Albania to study on Ottoman buildings, informed us that inside the Kala there were built two mosques, but nowadays they are demolished, and there were three more in Mangalem neighborhood: King Mosque, Lidet Mosque, and Mosque of Bachelors. Other religious structures include tekes and obviously churches from the Byzantine period. The road network was as such where two main roads extended along the riverside. Other the roads are spreading in a number of narrow and cobbled pavement. The secondary road associated with the main roads facilitates the smooth and peaceful movement of the inhabitants. In addition to them, there were also third-party roads, narrower and connecting the residential houses with each other. Since 1959, the city was declared a museum city and become an experimental laboratory for restoration and conservation example of the whole of Albania. Individual countries. From the studies held from Nur Akin or Frida Pashaku on Balkan houses, it can be assumed that the similarities between Balkan and Anatolia can be found in the architectural structure, spatial organization, facade, language, furniture, and decorative elements. These aspects of the house are analyzed further in this study. The Amasya houses are in many respects typical of many houses in northern Anatolia that foster a rich tradition of woodworking and the development of structural framing, cabinet work, and surface paneling. Spatial organization. There are several types of houses developed in Amasya, however the main concept is the same. The houses are arranged as harem, women quarters, and selamlik, men's quarter. Most of the houses are two-story buildings. The entrance to the house is done through the garden or courtyard, which lies between man and woman quarter in each house. The garden has multifunction, such as creating privacy between street and the house, connecting to the nature, as well as growing of vegetables and fruits. The basement floors under the ground is used as a storage place or service place for those working with trading. The plan of the upper floors shows similar characteristics to the traditional Turkish house. Sofa, living, and oda rooms determine the plan type. The rooms, oda, are open to the living sofa, which integrates all parts of the units with each other. Fireplaces are a very important feature of living room. The parts of the sofa which were free from circulations were used for sitting, and these parts were from the sofa in the form of avan. There were few rules governing the sitting of houses, but it was imperative not to block the view of a neighbor nor to overlook the privacy of a garden. Second floors of the houses are generally bay-windowed. As a result, these windows both maintain the symmetrical structure of the house and make more rooms. All units, both in inner space and outer units of the house, are connected and therefore complete each other. Planting in private gardens hangs out over the street, softening the already human scale of the neighborhood. The response to the temperature climate has been to create rooms which can be open to breezes in the summer and closed for warmth in the relatively mild winter. Rainfall sustains a garden for every house, and water well are among the first notable units in courtyard or gardens. The house interior is quite rich in decoration and furniture. The application of wood is quite massive, in floor finishes, in the ceiling finishes, as well as in the openings or other furniture. In terms of material and construction, as mentioned from Yalchin, lower floors are generally constructed of masonry so the plan can easily follow the irregular contour of street. Foundations of waterfront houses were made from cut stone. The upper floor is constructed of timber frame with infill of earth or brick covered in plaster, and roofs are sloped and covered with tiles. Timber above is used to create the regular rectangular rooms. The houses have cantilevered projections over the streets. Famous for the historic architecture and scenic beauty, Berat is known as the town of one over a window, or another version, the town of 1,000 windows. This is due to the large windows of the old houses overlooking the town. According to Professor Pashako, the origin of Albanian house belongs to the 15th century. Consequently, the formation of the basic typology is related with the agriculture economy and spaces needed for this kind of society. Spatial organization. According to historians Bache, Meksi, Riza, the houses in Berat are in three categories: the house with chardak, the house with half floor, and the house of 19th century. The common compositional characters of the house consist of two-store building. The entrance to the house is done through the garden. Similarly with Turkish houses, the garden has multi-functions. While studying the floor plans of some typical houses, three main areas were identified. The first one is chardak, the porch, which plays the function of the sofa, and hayat, sitting area connected to the sofa. 2. Oda, fireplace, referring to the room, and 3. Service area, kitchen, storage, bathrooms. The lower floor plan under the ground has two spaces, kitchen and a storage which can be accessed from hayat under the stairs. In the upper floor is located chardak and the rooms accessing to it. Chardak has several functions such as connecting surface, living during the hot season, and place for the manufacturing of agricultural products. This type is designed for wealthy families and particularly landowners who lived from feudal revenues. In the corner of chardak, the divan, sitting corner, is located. The guest room is clearly separated from the other rooms. Fireplaces are a very important feature of the rooms. The dwellings of this center are bounded by placing the main view towards the river. On the front side usually is created an extension through the projecting of the wooden facades with typical bow windows, spread throughout the Ottoman culture influence area and here called erkeri. All units, both in inner space and outer units of the houses, are connected and therefore complete each other. Planting in private gardens hangs out over the street, softening the already human scale of the neighborhood. The response to the temperature climate has been to create rooms which can be opened to breezes in the summer and closed for the warmth in the relatively mild winter. Similar with Amasya, the house interior is quite rich in decoration and furniture. Furnitures are built-in closed in the wall. The construction of the house in Berat uses materials and techniques identical in all types. The ground floor is always in bearing wall. The upper floors can be completely in load-bearing masonry with the addition of light structures such as the archery or in bearing timber wall. The large wooden roof is one of the most characteristic elements of the house and is distinguished by the numerous folds and the large overhangs of the eave. It can be summarized that these two well-preserved cities remarkably bear witness to the wealth and diversity of the urban and architectural heritage of their region. Sharing the period of Roman and especially Ottoman Empire make them to have similar architectural elements. The city's terrain is quite alike, hilly with a river dividing the town into two parts. Their evolution under Ottoman rule initiated interconnection in history timeline, demographic patterns, urban layout, and residential architecture. Both have been adapted to suit the town's lifestyle, with tiered houses on the slopes, horizontal in layout, and make abundant use of the entering daylight. Together, Amasya and Berat bear outstanding testimony to various types of urban housing during the classical Ottoman period.